Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Top Podcast. If you don't follow us already, our Twitter handle is at Off the Top 7.
Yeah, and our name is just Off the Top Podcast if you want to look us up from there. And you guys already know our YouTube, but make sure to subscribe below before we even get started because you guys already know this is going to be really quality. So, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks for interrupting me. Our last podcast was on our last podcast was on Burn Your Goals, a book that we're reading. It's really interesting. It has a lot of great life values, so go check it out. It's really good.
So we actually both just finished it recently. So
The
from
book.
from the book, but from our last podcast, you might remember we were only about like 2/3 of the way through. So we actually learned a lot more that we can hopefully tie into this if you guys are interested in that book.
Yeah, so this podcast is going to be about social media and how it's actually harming a lot of us without us realizing it.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even realize that, like, in social media, you're pretty much like putting out like your ideal version of yourself out there for people. So it's like not even actually you, and it creates like a lot of like insecurities for people, and it's really not healthy to be using social media as much as a lot of people do.
So research has actually found that your insecurities will actually be heightened when on social media because you're comparing yourself to other people. And what you really need to do is be betting yourself as a person.
Yeah, so in Burn Your Goals, they actually talk about comparison versus competition, and pretty much the difference is that when you're comparing yourself to other people, not only are you're putting yourself down, and they talk about beneficial self-talk is really important as well, talking to yourself instead of listening to yourself. You're pretty much telling yourself the worst outcomes, and like comparing yourself to someone that might look successful, but really they're not as successful as just like you're doing on social media, how you portray yourself in the best way. Everyone else does that, and it's not right to compare yourself to other people. But if you can use that like as motivation to compete, which is actually getting better, then that's pretty much what it should be.
It's pretty much like if you're watching like a basketball highlight tape, like that's pretty much what people are putting on their social media. They're putting their highlight tapes on social media, but they're not showing like for basketball it would be turnovers or incomplete passes. For football, you're not seeing any of that.
Yeah, pretty much like you said, it's all highlights and stuff. You never see people like actually putting. See, I don't know if I talked about this in the last podcast, but with like the video camera, how you can be using that to record yourself and improve your form when you're training instead of trying to like Snapchat and stuff. Did I talk about that?
Yeah.
How like when you have that technology, there's so much more available that you can do with it than just waste your time comparing yourself, putting yourself down, and just setting unrealistic goals for yourself. And you know what I mean?
Sometimes you do need to focus on your highlights though, just to know that you have the skill, and it kind of ups your own confidence. But you can't focus on other people's highlight tapes. Like highlight tapes are more for yourself.
Yeah, like there's a difference between like watching someone's highlight tape and watching film to improve yourself.
Yeah, you have to look at both of your insecurities and your highlights, and you need to make sure that you can differentiate the two.
Yeah, so also what I want to talk about is that speaking of like comparing yourself to people on social media, I know myself personally, in my feed, like I see a lot of like entrepreneurs and stuff that like looks inspirational to me, and I'm like wowed by like how these people have like these nice cars and everything at such a young age and stuff. But you got to realize that these people are it's more of like what we talked about last episode with like happiness versus fulfillment is that they're going for the short-term success and showing it off. And in Burn Your Goals, in the last chapter, one of the last chapters I just read, actually, it says that Harvard actually says that the greatest indicator of success is being able to delay gratification. So you see these people that are pretty much just going for anything to show off and anything to build their own brand. It's not an accurate description of their life and who they are.
Yeah, you don't see many people posting about the hard work and training that they do during the day. Like sometimes you will see it. Like you'll see like videos of like LeBron working out basketball, getting up shots during the day, but it's very rare that you'll see that over a highlight tape.
Yeah, everyone focuses on the outcome of things instead of how you could be using your time. Instead of just focusing on a goal of trying to look the best as you can, it's so much better and more beneficial to yourself to actually focus that energy on improving yourself rather than just saying, this is what I want to look like, this is the image I want to have.
Yeah, so I actually looked up a couple studies, and University of Pittsburgh actually stated that people had 2.2 times the risk of eating and body image concerns while using social media. And that's like insane because people are focusing on other people's best parts of themselves.
Yeah, and that's also amplifying insecurity you have by yourself. If you don't have money and you're going to look at someone that's like one of these entrepreneurs on Instagram that everyone, like, you'll look at them and see, wow, I want what they have. And it really isn't all as it seems. Like, a lot of it is honestly like, there's so many people out there that literally like fake success and like fake it till you make it is like a big thing. You know, if you're comparing yourself to that fake success and trying to put in like actually putting yourself down, that's not, I don't know, that's something you need to cut out, you know?
Yeah, just the use of social media is just very harmful in these ways. And also, it found that the University of Pittsburgh found that there's a correlation between social media and sleep deprivation. And sleep deprivation actually is a very big cause of depression.
Yeah, so, I mean, like we're talking about with all these, think about how much time you spend on Instagram every day comparing yourself to other people, and that it's like so unhealthy to even think about that. There's ways that I kind of want to branch into talking about how you can use social media beneficially, like connecting. It's obviously a really useful tool, but when you get to the point of all you're using it for is comparing yourself and looking at other people's success, that's so unhealthy for your mind. And there's more statistics like too just about how it decreases your mental health and how, you know, it's terrible for you.
Yeah, and most of the time it's well, nowadays you see a lot of body image issues with social media. Like, people are focusing more on it because of social media. But it's not only that, it's also just focusing on other people's like good times that they're having, like up at college. Like, some commuters are very disappointed that they have to stay home, and they would rather be living at a college while all their other friends are at a college, like having fun, whatever. But they need to realize how lucky they are to be in their own situation. Like, you need to be able to focus on yourself, and sometimes social media disconnects us from that.
Yeah, and like I was talking about with self-talk and benefit, like what's the most beneficial things you can do for yourself right now is you need to practice unconditional gratitude just for your situation. And self-talk, I mean, like, you can always say, at least I have drinking water and at least I have a home, and you know, there's so many things that we take for granted and all these opportunities. Comparing yourself and trying to, and like, not even just, it just happens, you put yourself down looking at and wishing you had all this stuff. That's just so there's so much more beneficial ways you can be spending your time and going towards a goal or dream that you have.
Yeah, but like, a lot of people will think, like, oh, obviously, that's so obvious that I have drinking water, and oh yeah, of course I'm lucky, but like, it's just drinking water. You can't just think of it that way. You have to realize that it's something that some people don't have. You have to realize that most of the stuff that you have is something that some people don't have.
Yeah, all the hours a day you spend on the internet and on especially on social media, there's just so, like, taking the internet for granted is just one of the biggest things that we do nowadays. You know, we can literally access any information we want whenever. So there's just so much more you can be doing with your time, learning from people that have followed their dreams and that are successful, instead of comparing yourself to people that look successful or comparing yourself to people that you think are successful.
Yeah, so just one more statistic that I want to tell you guys is that a study of 1,000 people was done, and 41% of those people stated that they were sad, anxious, or depressed after using social media. And that's like an insane statistic. 410 people out of 1,000 said that they were either sad, anxious, or depressed.
Yeah, so pretty much you should just throw your phone away right now and never go on it
just get
again.
rid of it. It's useless. Just throw it on the stove or something.
Yeah, so what else are we going to talk about in here? Social media?
So, time management and discipline is also something that we kind of want to point out. Like, social media is a big time consumer, and we can be spending a lot of that time doing something a lot more productive.
Yeah, and you can spend that time that you're spending putting yourself down improving yourself as a person and developing mental toughness.
Yeah, and also I kind of wanted to talk about escape and how a lot of this
Generation. Yeah, I know what you mean. Don't
yeah, generation uses a lot of things to escape where they are, whether it be escaping boredom, escaping their feelings, just anything.
Yeah, and social media is a great escape for a lot of people because it's free, it's so easily accessible. All you have to do is go on there and look at how other people are living and go and comparing yourself, and it's so easy to put yourself down, not even thinking about it, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome to go look at somebody's highlights, but actually, like, a lot of times, me myself personally, I'm thinking, oh wow, I wish I could do that, or like I wish like I could be as good as that.
Yeah, and you kind of just start assuming that if you get into the mindset of just saying, "Oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that," you're pretty much developing like a work ethic where you're saying, "Oh, they didn't work hard. They got lucky. They got to where they were from. You know, like they're naturally talented or something." But really, every single person that's in the NBA and NFL has worked so many hours and put so much dedicated training into their sport or whatever that it's just crazy.
Yeah, and like CEOs of businesses and just a lot of those type of people, they're just such hard workers, and a lot of times you don't see that on social media. But it's always good to look at how or where they are right now and say, "Oh, I want to get there."
Mm-hmm.
But you have to start putting work towards doing that. You can't just say, "I wish." You should pretty much just cut "I wish" out of your vocabulary. It's a terrible phrase.
Yeah, it's honestly pointless to spend any time at all saying, "I wish I had these circumstances," because, like we're talking about how unconditional gratitude is something that everyone needs to develop. You shouldn't. There's always something you can do where you are right now, even if it's such a small change. It's such a waste of time to be comparing yourself and saying, "Man, I wish I had the opportunities that LeBron had. I wish I had the raw talent that these people have." When really it's all developed over years of hard work.
Yeah, it's so stupid to even consider saying that they just got there just because they're born that way. Nobody is born that way. Some people are born with a little bit extra than others, but you have to realize that nobody is just given anything. They work hard for it. No matter where they start off, you have to work for something.
And honestly, every single person that's successful, with very, very few exceptions, has all experienced hard work and have all experienced putting themselves through the toughest challenges and everything they can do to achieve their dream.
Yeah, I would even say that like none of them have never experienced hard work or challenges. Like I would definitely say that there's some people that
So if you inherit a fortune or something, then it's different, but it's still, I mean, every single person that's successful has earned it,
yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's just hard to find somebody that has literally never worked for something in their life, and there's not something that comes along with the stuff that they inherit.
It's just like you imagine the hard work and everything that Kevin Durant puts in and all these other basketball players before practice and spending so much extra time out of their life to achieve their dream. It's honestly offensive to just say that they're talented and that's how they got there. They spent so much time that you don't see that it's just so unfair to say that they're just raw talented,
Yeah. So, going back to escape tendencies, a lot of us have insecurities about ourselves. Well, pretty much most of us. I would say most of us have insecurities about ourselves, and some of us feel the need to use an escape tendency to escape from that insecurity.
Yeah, and whether the escape just be how you react or how you interact with people in your daily life, if you're like really just kind of disconnected, or whether it actually be something like smoking or something that's terrible for you, but you do it regardless because of that insecurity.
Yeah, a lot of people like to use social media as an outlet because they just disconnect from everything around them and just focus all their attention on social media and other people's highlight films, whatever, just focusing on anything else but what they're feeling. And that's very, very harmful to yourself because you're just like closeting all those feelings that you have. And you really, really need to focus on those. You need to make sure that you're comfortable with each of those feelings.
Yeah, and you shouldn't play yourself down every time that you get, every single person just as they say in the book, it has the same value of being infinitely priceless. There isn't what you achieve in life doesn't determine how valuable you were. Every single person has the same value. So it's not really it's so detrimental to you to compare yourself and say that someone is worth more than you because they achieve more or because they currently have more than you. Because what you could be doing is spending your time learning from that person. Especially, there's so many books out there. They talk about how reading is just such an undervalued opportunity that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Like, think about how much information you could gain in your life if you read a book every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and if you feel like you have an insecurity or a flaw or whatever, like trying to find books on fixing that, or if it's unfixable and it's just how you look, it's not okay to just think that about yourself all the time. You can't escape from it 24/7. You have to become okay with it, or even grateful for everything else you have, because if you're grateful for everything that you have, all those flaws that you feel like you have are so much smaller. If you put first things first, second things are always...
Yeah, they're always enhanced.
Yeah, they're always enhanced.
Yeah, so it's like that's directly from Burn Your Goals. You always want to do the first things first, which are the controllables you can do, which is self-talk, your body language, all that. If you nail all that down, everything else is going to get better from there.
Yeah, you just have to put first things first. You have to focus on what you need to do right now to get where you want to be in the future. After you finish the things that are most important as of right now, the things that come later will be much, much easier to get done.
Yeah, and I think that just comes with, because you're not multitasking, having to divide your energy up. If you put all your focus on the most important thing in your life, you can just get it all done, and second things will increase. So, this is actually going to be it for our podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening to our third episode. We're going to have to try and be more consistent with these weeks, or with these uploads throughout the next weeks. But we do apologize, guys. We just been really busy and swamped. So hopefully we'll be uploading at least 2 a week. And thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at OffTheTop7. Off the Top Podcast is the name. And make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications below. And leave any feedback for us. Criticism's welcome. So, yeah, thank you guys so much.